The handcuffs bit into my wrists like metal teeth. It wasn't the first time I'd felt that weight. I'd been handcuffed before in another country, in another life. But this time was different. This time, Rex was 3 meters away from me, locked inside a steel cage in the police station's interrogation room. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just looked at me with those amber eyes that had seen too much. The fur on the left side of his body was singed, patches of soot still visible on old scars. He smelled of smoke and heroism, but the officers around me only saw danger. "Mr. Thompson, you trespassed on your neighbor's property." Detective Johnson slapped his palm on the table. Chubby, loose tie, tone of someone who had already decided I was guilty. "And this animal isn't registered. No license, no verified vaccines, history of aggression. He saved a child." My voice came out hoarser than I expected. 48 hours without sleep will do that to you. He went into that burning house and pulled a baby out. Doesn't that count? On the other side of the room, through the frosted glass separating the spaces, I saw Sophia. She was holding her son against her chest, wrapped in a hospital blue blanket. Her face was pale, eyes red and swollen. But when our eyes met, I didn't see anger. I saw confusion. I saw something that looked like guilt. "Mrs. Cardoso didn't ask for your dog's help, Mr. Thompson." Johnson crossed his arms. "In fact, she has a restraining order against you and the animal for harassment." Harassment. The word dropped in the room like a stone into still water. I closed my eyes. How did we get here? How did a rescue turn into an accusation? 48 hours earlier. I was fixing the kitchen faucet when I heard the knock at the door. 3 firm, impatient bangs. Rex lifted his head from the rug, ears alert. He always sensed things before I did. I opened the door and found Sophia standing in the hallway. She was about 30, dark hair pulled into a ponytail, jeans and a yellow blouse stained with something that looked like mashed potatoes. In her arms, the baby slept, 6 months old maybe. Chubby cheeks, a fringe of black hair. "I need to talk to you." She didn't even greet me. Her eyes slid quickly to Rex, who had approached the door, and her whole body tensed. "About your dog." "Dog." Never Rex. Never by name. Always the dog, as if giving a name would make it more real. "What about him?" Sophia adjusted the baby in her arms, a defensive movement. "He barks at night. Miguel can't sleep. And yesterday he growled when we passed in the hallway." That was a lie. Rex didn't growl. Not anymore. Not since we came back. He didn't growl. I kept my voice calm, controlled. Rex doesn't growl at people. He's trained. "Trained?" She gave a bitter smile. "Look at him. He looks like a monster out of a horror movie." There it was. That word. Monster. The same word a lieutenant had used to describe Rex when I first found him in Kandahar. The same word a child had screamed when we passed through the park last week. The same word I silently used to describe myself when I looked in the mirror and saw what I'd become. "Keep that monster away from my son." Sophia stepped back. "Or I'll have to take action. Legal action." The door slammed. Rex pressed his muzzle against my hand, that gesture he always made when he felt me sinking. I stroked his head, felt the scars under my fingers. "It's okay, boy," I whispered. "We're used to it." But it wasn't okay. It never was. Rex wasn't mine from the beginning. Nobody tells that part of the story. I found him at Fort Bragg 3 months after I came back. I was there to collect my belongings, sign paperwork, close a cycle that never really closes. The military shelter was in the back of the base, a grey concrete building that smelled of disinfectant and abandonment. He was in the last cage of the row, alone. The others held flawless German shepherds, golden Labradors with tongues hanging out, energetic Malinois that jumped when anyone passed by. But Rex just sat there, quiet, as if he had already given up on being chosen. Nobody wants that one. The corporal in charge of the shelter chewed gum, indifferent, spent too long in the field, 3 tours in Afghanistan, took grenade shrapnel to the muzzle, lost part of his left ear, has 3rd-degree burns on his flank. Technically, he should have been put down, as if he were a broken object. Why wasn't he? The corporal shrugged. Sergeant who owned him died. Before he went, he left specific instructions, said Rex deserved a chance. He spat the gum into a cup. But that was 7 months ago. Chance is over. I looked at Rex. He looked back. And in that second, I saw it. I saw the sleepless nights. I saw the weight of having survived when others hadn't. I saw the loneliness of being too different to be accepted, too strong to be abandoned, too scarred to be loved. I saw myself. I'll take him. The corporal blinked. Seriously? Man, that dog is difficult, doesn't interact well with strangers, has anxiety issues, needs medication. I'll take him. I signed the papers that afternoon. Rex walked out of the cage without jumping, without wagging his tail. He simply walked at my side, as if he had always known that eventually someone would come. Our days became routine. Wake up at 5 in the morning, walk to the park, always the same route, always avoiding peak hours. People crossed the street when they saw us. Once a mother yanked her daughter back so hard the child fell. Careful, that dog is dangerous. Dangerous. Not fierce, not mean. Dangerous, as if his existence itself were a threat. I understood. My grown-out beard, permanent dark circles under my eyes, the way I walked, always mapping exits, always keeping my back to the wall, scared people too. At the supermarket, mothers clutched their purses tighter. At job interviews, recruiters avoided my eyes. I see here you served in Afghanistan. Always that pause, that tone, as if war were a contagious disease. And are you receiving psychological treatment? I stopped looking for work after the 10th interview. I started doing odd jobs, fixing things, carrying boxes, work that didn't require references or questions. Rex was my only constant. At night, when the nightmares came, and they always came, he would rest his head on my chest until my breathing calmed down. He didn't judge when I woke up sweating, screaming names no one else remembered. He didn't ask why I shook when I heard fireworks. He just stayed. Then Sophia moved into the apartment next door 3 weeks ago. Young, alone with a baby, dark circles that mirrored mine. I thought maybe we could understand each other. Two people trying to rebuild something out of nothing. But when she saw Rex for the first time in the hallway, her face closed up. She clutched the baby against her chest as if I were pointing a weapon at her. She didn't say hi, didn't smile, just hurried her step, muttering something too low for me to hear. And I already knew. I had seen that look before. We were monsters, Rex and I. No matter what we had done, what we had survived, what we had sacrificed, our scars spoke louder than any words, and scars, to most people, only tell stories of danger. Kandahar, summer 2019. The heat was so intense, it melted the soles of our boots. Rex wasn't mine. He belonged to Sergeant James Miller, Jamie to his friends. We both grew up on the same street in Pittsburgh, enlisted together at 19, served side by side for 6 years. He was more than my best friend. He was my brother. Jamie treated Rex like a son, carried his photo in his vest pocket, shared his rations. At night in camp, Rex slept between us, and Jamie would spend hours stroking those perfect ears, scarless back then, talking about the house he was going to buy when he came back. "I'll have a huge yard, Tommy," he'd say, using the nickname only he ever called me. "Rex will be able to run. He won't need to sniff out explosives, won't need a bulletproof vest. He'll just be a dog." I always agreed. I always believed we'd see that yard together. August 23rd. Routine patrol on Copper Route. Sky too blue, silence too heavy. Rex had been restless since we left. Nose in the air, body tense. Jamie noticed. "He's sensing something." Jamie tightened the tactical leash. "Tommy, stop the convoy." I raised my hand. The vehicles halted. Total silence, except for the wind dragging sand. Then the world exploded. IED buried in the road. The blast flipped our Humvee on its side. Metal groaning, glass shattering. My ears rang, black smoke filled everything. I tasted blood in my mouth. "Jamie!" I shouted, but my own voice sounded muffled, distant. Flames. The vehicle was on fire. Jamie was trapped in the driver's seat, belt jammed, door crushed. Blood ran from the gash on his forehead, eyes half closed. Rex had been thrown clear in the explosion. I saw him get up, staggering. The left side of his muzzle bleeding where shrapnel had hit. Any animal would have run. Any creature with a survival instinct would have fled from the fire, the smoke, the death. But Rex ran toward the flames. "No!" I tried to move, but my leg was pinned under twisted metal. "Rex, no!" He didn't hear me. Or he heard and didn't care. I watched as Rex grabbed Jamie's sleeve with his teeth and pulled. Once, twice, 3 times. His skin was burning. I could hear his cries of pain, but he didn't let go. Muscles straining, paws scraping against hot metal, he dragged Jamie out of the vehicle seconds before the fuel tank exploded. The heat wave hit me like a wall. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, other soldiers were already pulling us to safety. Medics shouting. Helicopter approaching. I dropped to my knees beside Jamie. He was still breathing, but barely. Too much blood. Burns too deep. "Tommy." His voice was a shredded whisper. A trembling hand gripped my sleeve. "Rex, take care of him, I promise." "You'll take care of him, Jamie. You will promise." Tears burned my eyes. "I promise." Jamie died 3 minutes later. Rex lay beside him, licking Jamie's hand even with his own body raw and torn. I came back 6 months later with an honorable discharge and PTSD on my record. Rex came back missing half of his left ear, scars crossing his muzzle like war maps, and a trauma no veterinarian could name. We both came back carrying Jamie, each in our own way, and people looked at our scars, his visible, mine not so much, and saw only what was broken. They never saw what we had tried to save. 3:42 in the morning. I know because I looked at the clock when I woke up. Rex was beside my bed, howling, not barking, not growling. Howling, a primitive, desperate sound I had never heard from him, not in Kandahar, not on the worst nightmare nights. His whole body shook, paws scratching the wooden floor. "Rex, what?" Then I felt it. The smell. Smoke. I jumped out of bed, heart racing. Rex was already at the door, scratching and scratching, that continuous howl tearing through the night. I opened the door, and the hallway was hazy, orange light flickering through the cracks of the door next to mine. Sophia's apartment. Shit. Shit. I ran for the phone, hands trembling, dialed 911. "Fire on Maple Street, 347 apartment." The sound of splintering wood cut me off. I turned. Rex had smashed through my apartment door, hinges ripped out, lock broken. He bolted into the hallway. "Rex, no!" I dropped the phone, ran after him, but my legs were still half asleep, trapped between dream and reality. Rex was pure adrenaline, pure instinct. I saw him hurl himself against Sophia's door. Once, twice. The wood was hot, starting to give. On the third hit, the door flew open, and a wave of black smoke swallowed us whole. "Rex!" I shouted, but my voice vanished. He had already disappeared into the smoky darkness. No, not again. Not another one I can't save. I tried to follow, but the heat pushed me back, flames licking the walls, curtains turning to ash, the ceiling starting to sag. I grabbed my shirt, pressed it to my nose and mouth, tried again. "Rex! Come back!" Nothing. Just the crackle of fire and the distant sound of something collapsing inside. Doors opened in the hallway. Neighbors waking. Someone screamed. Mrs. Henderson from 345 appeared in her robe, phone in hand. "I already called the fire department. My God, is someone in there?" I couldn't answer. My eyes locked on the entrance, waiting, praying. Then I heard it, from across the street, a voice that cut through everything. "Miguel, my baby is in there." I turned. Sophia was on the opposite sidewalk, barefoot, in pajamas, hair wild. She must have run out when she saw the fire, but alone, without the baby. The world stopped. 6 months. The baby was 6 months old. "There's a child in there," I shouted to the neighbors. "Does anyone have a fire extinguisher?" Mr. Kovac from 349 sprinted to his apartment. I was already at Sophia's door again, shirt over my face, trying to see through the smoke. "Rex!" 15 seconds. 20. 30. Jamie had taken 2 minutes to die. 2 minutes of me watching, powerless. How long can a baby last without air? "Rex! Please!" 40 seconds. 50. Sophia had collapsed to her knees on the sidewalk, sobbing, screaming her child's name in a language that wasn't quite Portuguese, wasn't quite Spanish. It was pure desperation, an eternity. And then, through the smoke, a silhouette. Rex emerged from the doorway, staggering. The fur on his left side, always the left side, was singed, blackened. He coughed, body convulsing, but between his jaws, delicately, as if carrying porcelain, was a blue blanket. And inside the blanket, a baby crying. Alive. Rex took 3 steps, and his legs gave out. I ran. My knees scraped the asphalt as I fell beside him. I took the blue blanket from his mouth. So delicately he had held it, even while burning, even while suffocating. and placed the baby in Sophia's arms as she came rushing forward. She clutched Miguel to her chest, sobbing, checking every finger, every breath. The baby coughed but cried loud, furious, alive. "Rex!" My voice cracked. I placed my hands on his neck, searching for a pulse. It was there, weak, irregular, but there. "Stay with me, boy, stay with me." His amber eyes found mine. Even through the pain, even with his body shaking, he tried to lift his head, as if checking that I was okay, as if I were the one who needed saving. "You're an idiot." The tears came before I could stop them. A heroic, stubborn idiot. Sirens tore through the night. 2 fire trucks, an ambulance, a police cruiser. Paramedics jumped out, stretcher already open. A woman in a blue uniform knelt beside Sophia. "Ma'am, I need to examine the baby." Sophia didn't let go of Miguel. She just shook her head, holding him tighter, as if letting him go meant losing him again. "Sophia." My voice reached her through the shock. "Let them help." She looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time since we'd met, I didn't see fear. I saw something else. Recognition. As if she was finally seeing me for who I was. She handed Miguel to the paramedic. He inhaled a lot of smoke. "Please. We'll take care of him." The paramedic was already checking vitals, placing a tiny oxygen mask over the baby's face. "He's going to be okay." Firefighters rushed into Sophia's apartment with hoses. The fire had already consumed half the living room. Another paramedic approached me. "Sir, you need to be examined." "The dog!" I pointed to Rex. "He needs help. Now." The paramedic hesitated, looking down. I knew what he was thinking. Limited resources. Priorities. A human life outweighs an animal's. "He saved a child." My voice was steel. "He went into that inferno and saved a life. So you're going to tell me where the nearest emergency vet is, or I'll carry him to the hospital myself and make you explain to your supervisor why you let a hero die on the sidewalk." He blinked, grabbed the radio. "Dispatch, I need contact for an emergency vet. We've got a rescue dog with smoke inhalation and burns." 5 minutes. A white van arrived. 2 women stepped out, one older with grey hair tied in a bun, the other younger, carrying a case of equipment. River Street Veterinary Clinic. The older woman was already kneeling, stethoscope around her neck. "I'm Dr. Patel. Someone tell me what happened." I explained in 3 sentences. She didn't waste time with questions, just worked. Oxygen, IV line, checking burns, murmuring numbers to the assistant. "He's going to survive." She looked at me, and there was something like admiration in her eyes. "But he'll need intensive treatment. 2nd-degree burns on the flank, severe smoke inhalation. I'll take him now. I'm going with him." "Sir," someone touched my shoulder. I turned. 2 police officers, a man and a woman. Neutral, professional expressions. The man spoke first. "Mr. Thompson?" My stomach sank. "That's me. We need to ask you some questions about what happened here tonight." "He saved my son." Sophia's voice cut through the air. She had stepped closer, Miguel still in the paramedic's arms behind her. "That dog saved my baby." The female officer nodded. "We understand, ma'am, but we still need to know how Mr. Thompson gained access to your apartment. You filed a complaint yesterday." "Complaint?" I repeated. Sophia closed her eyes. When she opened them, there were tears. I requested a restraining order against you and the dog. Harassment, risk to my child, The world went very quiet. "Mrs. Cardoso," the officer continued, "did Mr. Thompson trespass on your property?" Sophia looked at me, at Rex being carried on the improvised stretcher, back at me. "No," she whispered. "He didn't trespass. He saved everything." But the officers were already unclipping the handcuffs from their belts. The interrogation room smelled of cold coffee and disinfectant. 4 hours at the precinct. Rex was at the veterinary clinic, sedated, fighting for his life, and I was sitting in that hard metal chair, handcuffed, watching Sophia fall apart. "You need to tell us everything, Mrs. Cardoso." Detective Morrison, a woman in her 50s, short hair, weary eyes, pushed a box of tissues across the table. "From the beginning." Sophia held a cup of water in both hands. She didn't drink, just held it, as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored to reality. Miguel was with her grandmother now, safe, monitored at the hospital, but Sophia's eyes looked empty. The fire wasn't an accident. Her voice was so low I barely heard it. "It was Marcus." Morrison leaned forward. "Marcus Rocha. Your ex-husband. X? Sophia repeated the word as if testing its weight. He doesn't accept the X. She began slowly, stopping often, wiping away tears that wouldn't stop falling. Marcus Rocha, 34 years old, served 2 tours in Iraq, came back in 2018 with a medal for bravery and an anger he couldn't control. At first, it was just temper. Sophia twisted the tissue in her hands. He broke things, punched walls, screamed in the middle of the night. I tried to understand. I knew he'd seen terrible things. I tried to help. When did the violence start? Morrison asked. 6 months after Miguel was born. Sophia closed her eyes. Marcus couldn't handle the crying, said it sounded like sirens, reminded him of things. One night, he grabbed Miguel from the crib and screamed at him to shut up. The baby was 3 months old. My stomach turned. I grabbed Miguel back. Marcus shoved me. I fell, hit my head on the edge of the dresser. She touched her left temple, where I could see a small scar under her hair. I woke up in the hospital. Marcus was crying, begging forgiveness, saying it would never happen again. But it did. Morrison wasn't asking. 3 times. On the 4th, I took Miguel and left. Went to my mother's house, filed a report, got a restraining order. Sophia looked at me for the first time. I got the order 3 days ago. Marcus, he didn't take it well. He threatened you. He said if I took his son, I'd regret it. His voice broke. Said he'd take Miguel from me one way or another. I thought he'd try to kidnap the baby. I didn't think he'd set the house on fire, with his son inside. Morrison wrote something down. And Mr. Thompson, why the restraining order against him? Sophia looked at me with those red, exhausted eyes. Because he reminded me of Marcus. The words hung in the air. When I saw him in the hallway for the first time, the way he walked, always scanning, the beard, the dark circles, the hands that sometimes shook, I saw Marcus. She wiped more tears. And that dog, with those scars, those eyes. I panicked. I thought if I kept you away, I'd keep Marcus away too, as if you were contaminated by the same thing. War. She was talking about war. I was wrong. Sophia sobbed. I saw Marcus's trauma and assumed every veteran was dangerous, violent. But you're not Marcus, you never were, and that dog saved your son, Morrison finished. Saved everything. Sophia looked at me with something like apology, shame, and gratitude all mixed together. I judged you by your scars, by the same scars that made him a hero. I didn't know what to say. Part of me was furious. She had filed for a restraining order, had called me a monster. But another part understood. I knew how trauma changed people. I had seen Marcus in myself more times than I wanted to admit. Where is Marcus now? I asked. Morrison flipped through papers. Missing. Security cameras caught him leaving the area an hour before the fire, used gasoline from the traces we found. Premeditated. He'll be back, Sophia said, and there was absolute certainty in her voice. He's not finished. He never finishes. Morrison closed the file. We'll find him, Mrs. Cardoso. And Mr. Thompson. She looked at me. You're free to go. No charges, in fact. She hesitated. Given the circumstances, we'd like your help. My help? Does Marcus Rocha know you? I shook my head. We've never met. But he knows you exist. Knows you live next door to his ex-wife. Morrison stood. If he comes back, Mr. Thompson, you and that dog may be the only thing standing between Marcus and Sophia. I looked at Sophia. She looked back. 2 people marked by the same kind of war, even if only one of us had been to the battlefield. I'll help, I said, but first I need to see Rex. 3 days. Rex spent 3 days at the veterinary clinic, hooked up to tubes, breathing through an oxygen mask. I spent 3 days on Sophia's couch, sleeping 2 hours a night, always on alert, always waiting. Dr. Patel called on the morning of the 3rd day. He can go home. He's still recovering, but the worst has passed. I went to pick him up alone. When Rex saw me, he tried to stand up too fast and almost fell. I caught him, felt the bandages under his fur, the tremor in his muscles, but his eyes still carried that same light. Welcome back, boy. We returned to Sophia's apartment. She and Miguel were temporarily staying at her mother's house, but I had remained, an unofficial guard. The police had increased patrols, but Marcus was clever. He had avoided cameras, paid in cash, didn't use a phone. A ghost. Until he wasn't. 4th day, 2 in the afternoon. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Rex lifted his head, ears pricked. Well, the one that was still intact. A low growl, almost subvocal. My blood went cold. I looked out the window. A grey Civic parked on the street. Tinted windows, engine running. I grabbed the phone, dialed Morrison. "He's here. Don't do anything. We're 5 minutes out." The Civic's door opened. Marcus Rocha was exactly what I expected, and nothing like it at the same time. Tall, maybe 6'1", shaved head, eagle tattoo on his left forearm, 82nd Airborne, jeans, black t-shirt, military boots. He could have been my reflection in some alternate universe where I had made different choices. He walked straight to the front door, knocked. 3 heavy blows on the wood. "Sophia, I know you're in there." I opened the door before he could knock again. Rex stood at my side, tense but silent. Marcus looked me over, head to toe. Instant recognition. Veteran recognizes veteran. It's something in the eyes, in the posture, in the ghosts we carry. "You," he spat the word, "the hero neighbor, read about you in the paper. Dog saves baby, blah blah blah." He gave a smile that never reached his eyes. Another broken little soldier playing hero. "Sophia's not here, Marcus." I kept my voice calm. "And you've got a restraining order. You need to leave." "Restraining order." He laughed, a bitter sound. "From my son? That bitch can't do that. Miguel is my son. You tried to kill him." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Marcus's face twisted, pure, unfiltered rage. "I tried to scare her. Make her understand she can't take him from me." He stepped forward. "I didn't know the baby was there. She said she was going to her mother's." A lie. I saw it in his eyes. He knew. "Marcus, the police are coming. You can leave now, or what?" He took another step. "You gonna stop me? You and that mutilated dog?" That's when Rex moved. He didn't charge, didn't bark, didn't growl. He simply walked forward and planted himself between Marcus and me, between Marcus and the door, between Marcus and anything he thought he could reach. He stood there, motionless, silent. But there was something in that stillness more threatening than any sound. The scars on his muzzle seemed deeper in the sunlight, the torn ear, the fresh burns still visible, his paws firm on the ground. And those eyes. Marcus froze. I saw it when something changed in his expression. Recognition. Not of Rex specifically, but of what Rex embodied. Absolute determination, unshakable loyalty, the difference between a soldier and a warrior. "Get that dog away from me." Marcus's voice had lost its confidence. "I don't control him," I told the truth. "You're the one who needs to control yourself." Sirens in the distance, growing closer. Marcus looked at Rex. Rex didn't blink. "This isn't over." Marcus backed up, hands raised. "You hear me? It's not over." But his legs were already moving, carrying him back to the car. He got in, sped away. 2 patrol cars turned the corner 3 seconds later, but the Civic had already vanished. Rex finally moved, returning to my side. I placed my hand on his head, felt the tremor of exhaustion. He had drawn on reserves he didn't have. "You never stop saving lives, do you?" He pressed his muzzle against my hand. Answer enough. Marcus Rocha was arrested 2 weeks later. He tried to cross the border into Mexico, but a toll booth camera caught his license plate. 3 patrol cars surrounded him at a gas station. He didn't resist. He just sat on the ground and cried. Sometimes, I wonder if I would have ended up the same way, if it weren't for Rex. Sophia and Miguel moved back into the building. A new apartment, 2 floors down, away from the memories of smoke. She came to see me on the 3rd day. "Can I see Rex?" I opened the door. Rex was on the rug, still bandaged on his flank, but his eyes alert. When he saw Sophia, he didn't move, just watched. She knelt slowly, extended her hand. "Hi, boy. I owe you an apology. A big apology." Rex sniffed her fingers, then slowly pressed his muzzle into her palm. Sophia cried. I pretended not to notice. Now it's October. The trees are golden. Rex and I walk every morning through the same park where people used to avoid us, but something has changed. A woman stopped yesterday. Grey hair, gentle smile. "Is that the dog who saved the baby?" I nodded. "That's him. Can I pet him?" I looked at Rex. He looked back at me. His way of saying, "You decide." "You can." She stroked his head, instinctively avoiding the scars, but Rex guided his muzzle to her hand as if to say, "You don't need to fear them." A small boy appeared from behind her, holding an ice cream. 5 years old maybe, wide-eyed. Is he a real hero? The greatest I know, I answered. The boy grinned. When I grow up, I want to be brave like him. We kept walking. Rex limped a little. He always will. The burns left permanent marks, but he doesn't seem to mind. Sophia visits us every Thursday. She brings Miguel, who's 7 months now, and tries to grab Rex's ears. Sophia says Miguel said X last week. Trying to say Rex, she explains, laughing. At night, when the apartment is quiet, I look at Rex sleeping on the rug. The scars on his muzzle, the torn ear, the patches of fur that never grew back. All witnesses. All medals written in flesh and time. I think of Jamie, of the promise I made. Take care of him, Tommy. I thought that promise was about keeping Rex alive, feeding him, taking him to the vet, giving him a home. But now I understand. Jamie wasn't asking me to take care of Rex. He was asking me to let Rex take care of me, because that's what he does. Every day. Without judgment. Without questions. Without fear of my scars. Heroes aren't perfect. They don't have flawless skin or spotless stories. They're not always handsome or presentable. Heroes are the ones who stay when everyone else leaves. The ones who run toward the fire when others run away. The ones who wear scars as proof that love is a verb, not a noun. Rex stirs in his sleep, paw twitching as if he's running, chasing something, or escaping, his own nightmares. I get up, sit beside him, place my hand on his ribs, feel the breath, the heart beating steady. I'm here, boy. He relaxes, falls back into peaceful sleep, and I finally understand. Heroes don't need to be beautiful. They just need to show up when everything falls apart.